See these two plants? This one, the crispy yellow leaf, came from my spring-planted vine. By July, it looked like it had completely given up on life. Yellow leaves, tiny cucumbers, covered in powdery mildew. The whole thing was ready for the compost pile. Now look at this one. Same garden, same soil, same watering schedule. The only difference? I planted it in August. And believe it or not, this late-season plant is going to give me the biggest, sweetest cucumber harvest of the entire year. Most gardeners think cucumber season starts and ends in spring. I think that's only half the story. Today, I'm going to show you why planting cucumbers in July or August often produces healthier plants, fewer pest problems, and much better tasting fruit, and exactly how to do it before your season runs out of time. If you've ever watched your cucumber plants slowly fall apart halfway through the summer, you are definitely not alone. Most people think they did something wrong. Maybe they overwatered, maybe they forgot to fertilize, maybe the weather was just terrible. But here's the surprising part. For many gardeners, you did absolutely nothing wrong. Your cucumber plant simply got old. And once you understand the biology behind that, you'll stop wasting time trying to keep tired, dying plants on life support, and start growing brand new ones that will absolutely outperform them. Here's something the seed packets don't really tell you. Cucumber plants aren't designed to produce forever. They are incredibly fast growers. They germinate in days, climb like crazy, and pump out heavy yields, but they also burn out surprisingly fast. By the middle of summer, that spring-planted vine has already spent months fighting off high heat, heavy rains, insect attacks, and soil diseases. Every single cucumber you pick takes a little more energy out of the plant's battery. Eventually, it just hits its natural limit. Leaves yellow, production slows to a crawl, fruits get small, and they start turning bitter. Think of it like this. Would you rather expect an exhausted marathon runner to suddenly turn around and sprint another mile? Or would you rather put a fresh, rested runner on the track? A second planting is your fresh runner. You replace a tired, diseased plant with a young, energetic one entering its prime right as the summer heat stabilizes. Even better, warm summer soil gets cucumber seeds off to a lightning-fast start. Instead of sitting in cold, wet spring mud waiting to germinate, they get dropped into conditions they absolutely love. They sprout faster, grow faster, and catch up much quicker than you'd ever expect. But there is one brutal mistake that can completely ruin this entire late-season plan before your seeds even sprout. It is so common that almost every first-time summer grower makes it, and it actually has nothing to do with watering. Before we get to that, you need to know exactly when to plant, because when you're racing autumn, timing is everything. A lot of generic gardening advice says, plant cucumbers in July, or plant them in August. That's only half true. The real answer depends entirely on one date, your average first fall frost. Cucumbers have zero frost tolerance. One cold night and the vine turns to black mush. To avoid this, commercial growers use a backward planning formula. They take their first frost date, subtract the days to maturity on the seed packet, and then add a critical 28-day buffer. Why the 4-week buffer? First, you need a 2-week fall growth factor. As autumn approaches, days shorten and nights cool down. This slows the plant's metabolism. A cucumber variety that takes 50 days to mature in June will easily take 65 days in September. Second, you need a 2-week safety net in case a freak early frost hits. Seriously, take 30 seconds tonight and search for your local average first frost date. That one number will improve your gardening success rate more than any fancy fertilizer ever will. And don't make the mistake I did during my first attempt. I got busy, thought I'll plant them next weekend, and that next weekend slipped by 3 weeks. The plants looked spectacular, right up until they got wiped out by a cold snap just as they started flowering. Plant while you still have those warm days in the bank. Here's another trick that completely changed my yields. Stop planting one giant crop all at once. Instead, practice succession planting. Sow just 2 to 4 seeds every 21 days up until about 6 weeks before your first expected frost. Because cucumbers grow fast and decline quickly, planting in small, staggered waves ensures you get a steady, rolling supply of crisp cucumbers for your kitchen, rather than a massive, overwhelming explosion of fruit in July, followed by absolutely nothing in September. Your neighbors will thank you too. They won't have to dodge eye contact when they see you walking up their driveway with another massive grocery bag of cucumbers. Now, let's talk about that silent killer of summer seeds, the soil. In July and August, your garden bed can easily become hot enough to cook a seed alive before it ever gets the chance to grow. Cucumber seeds love warm soil. In fact, they germinate much faster in summer than they do in chilly spring weather. But there is a strict limit. Dark soil sitting in full afternoon sun can easily climb well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. At that temperature, your seeds don't think, "This is a nice warm home." They think, "I'm in an oven." The tiny emerging root cooks and dies before it ever breaks the surface. This is exactly why some gardeners swear summer planting doesn't work. It's not because cucumbers hate summer. It's because they accidentally baked their seeds. Fortunately, the fix is ridiculously simple, and you already have the tools in your garage. To fix this, you don't need to shade your whole garden. Just shade the exact spot where the seeds are buried. Take a piece of cardboard, an old plastic nursery tray, a scrap of plywood, or even a wet towel, and prop it up about 2 to 3 inches above the soil surface using bricks or sticks. The goal isn't total darkness. It's simply blocking that intense, direct afternoon sun from baking the soil. Leaving that gap allows air to move underneath, keeping the ground cool. This simple trick drops the soil temperature by 15 to 20 degrees, bringing it right back into the perfect 80-degree germination sweet spot. Under this shade card, your seeds can sprout in as little as 3 to 4 days. The very second you see green leaves breaking the surface, remove the cover and let them catch the light. It costs absolutely nothing, takes 30 seconds, and completely guarantees a high germination rate. Every summer, I see gardeners starting their cucumbers indoors in the AC, planning to transplant them outside later. It sounds like the smart, safe thing to do. It works for tomatoes, it works for peppers, so why not cucumbers? Because cucumbers possess an incredibly fragile, sensitive taproot system that absolutely hates being disturbed. Even a healthy-looking transplant will often go into severe shock when moved into hot, dry August soil. It will sit there, stalled out for 10 to 14 days, just trying to recover. Meanwhile, a seed planted directly in the warm ground adapts to the heat from day one. Its taproot grows straight down into the deep soil profile undisturbed, giving it immediate access to deep moisture and making it highly resistant to hot winds. Within a few weeks, the direct sown seed will completely overtake the transplant. Unless you have an incredibly short growing season, skip the pots and plant the seed exactly where it's going to live. Just plant them about an inch deep. If you are trellising, space them 9 to 12 inches apart. If you are letting them sprawl, give them a foot of space. Easy. But what happens when you do everything right? The plants grow beautifully, and then your harvest tastes completely bitter. Most people blame the seed variety, but the real culprit is actually hiding underground. Cucumbers are incredibly shallow-rooted. Almost their entire root zone lives in the top 6 to 12 inches of soil, making them highly sensitive to moisture swings. When your soil goes through a dramatic cycle of drying out bone dry and then getting completely flooded because you felt guilty and grabbed the hose, the plant gets severely stressed. To defend itself, it produces defensive chemicals called cucurbitacins. These natural compounds are highly bitter. When water stress hits, they concentrate right under the skin and near the stem of the fruit. You didn't pick a bad variety, you just gave your plant water whiplash. Your cucumber plants don't need more water. They need predictable water. You want the soil to feel like a wrung-out sponge, consistently damp, never dry like dust, and never a swamp. The easiest way to deliver this is drip irrigation, or a soaker hose under a thick layer of straw mulch. It puts water directly into the soil slowly with minimal evaporation, and critically, it keeps the leaves completely dry. Wetting cucumber leaves in the hot afternoon creates a humid microclimate that is a literal open invitation for powdery mildew. If you have to water overhead, do it at the crack of dawn so the leaves dry quickly before noon. If I had to choose between buying fancy fertilizer or buying a single bale of straw mulch, I would choose the straw every single time. Mulch does 3 things your cucumbers absolutely love. First, it stops moisture from evaporating, meaning you water way less. Second, it acts as insulation, keeping the soil cool during those brutal 95-degree afternoons. Third, it stops dirt from splashing onto the leaves when it rains. That last one is crucial. Many soil-borne fungal diseases get a free ride onto your plant's foliage via rain splashes. Mulch blocks that launchpad completely. One cheap layer of straw yields massive benefits. During peak summer, temperatures past 95 degrees Fahrenheit can cause cucumber plants to stall out and drop their flowers. To prevent this, you need shade. You can buy a commercial 30% shade cloth to drape over hoops, and that works great. But my favorite approach is using living shade. specifically, planting cucumbers next to okra. Early in the season, okra is small, allowing your young cucumbers to get the full morning sun they need to establish. But as the summer heat peaks in August, the okra grows into a towering, leafy giant. It naturally casts a perfect, protective afternoon shadow over the cucumbers right when the sun is doing the most damage. It's a functional shade structure that grows itself on a perfect biological schedule, and you get an extra crop of okra out of the exact same garden footprint for free. Everything we've talked about so far will help your cucumbers grow, but there is one disease that can wipe out a perfect plant overnight. You walk out, and your plant looks like it completely forgot how to be alive. You water it, but it just gets worse. Within a week, the entire vine is dead. This is bacterial wilt, and it's spread by cucumber beetles. If you want to diagnose it, do the string test. Slice a wilted stem near the base of the plant. Press the cut ends together for 5 seconds, then slowly pull them apart. If you see fine, gooey white strands stretching between the cuts like melted cheese, that's bacterial wilt. The bacteria have literally clogged the water veins of your plant. There is no cure. You have to pull the plant immediately. But here is how you outsmart it. Choose a variety labeled parthenocarpic. Standard heirlooms have separate male and female flowers and need bees to pollinate them, meaning you can't cover them. A parthenocarpic hybrid is bred to set fruit without any insect pollination at all. Because they don't need bees, you can keep a lightweight floating insect row cover over them their entire lives. The beetles can never touch them, completely eliminating the threat of wilt. A variety like County Fair Improved is perfect for this. It's a 50-day producer, highly disease-resistant, and can stay covered from seed to harvest. If you are growing open-pollinated heirlooms like Marketmore, you have to let bees in, so you can't use full-time row covers. Instead, plant a trap crop of blue Hubbard squash a few feet away. The beetles prefer the squash over your cucumbers, allowing you to isolate and deal with them there. Finally, let's talk support structures. If you are still letting your vines sprawl all over the dirt, you are losing fruit to rot, pests, and poor airflow. The best trellis system I have ever built is the teepee mound setup. First, build a circular mound of soil and compost, about 3 feet wide and a foot high, leaving a slight bowl-like depression right in the center. Next, take 4 or 5 long wooden poles or bamboo stakes, push them into the outer edge of the mound, and lash them together tightly at the top to create a teepee frame. Wrap natural garden twine in a continuous upward spiral around the poles to give the vines something to grab onto. This setup is brilliant for 3 reasons. First, direct feeding. The depression in the center of the mound acts as a natural water basin. When you pour water or liquid fertilizer down the middle, it feeds the deep roots of all the plants at once without running off. Second, flawless airflow. Lifting the foliage off the ground dramatically reduces powdery mildew. Third, 360-degree harvesting. The cucumbers hang down freely through the twine on the outer surface of the cone, making them incredibly easy to spot and harvest at eye level, instead of crawling through a jungle of vines. So here is the biggest takeaway. Don't think of cucumber season as something that ends in July. Think of late summer as your golden opportunity to start fresh. Find your frost date, calculate your 28-day buffer, shade the soil for germination, water consistently, use living shade, protect against beetles, and give those vines a sturdy teepee to climb. Do that, and while everyone else is pulling out dead, yellow plants, you'll still be harvesting crisp, sweet cucumbers deep into autumn. If you're going to try a late summer planting this year, drop a comment saying, "I'm in," below, so I can see who is extending their season. If you want practical, science-backed gardening tips without the fluff, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.